Hey, baby boomers, Tony Segreto here, and welcome back to our Baby Boomer Report Facebook page. And guess what else is back? The Boombox. That's right. And boy, do we have something great today. And who was our resident Boombox DJ? The one and only Joe Johnson. Joe, welcome. Good to see you back, man.
Good to see you, Tony. I hope you're being safe with the family. I know we are here, and it's great to see you on the Zoom here.
Yeah, it is. It's great to see you as well. And we are actually coming to you from our beautiful little home in Vermont. And this is our studio here in Vermont for the Baby Boomer Report. It's a beautiful fall day here, as you can see, hence the flannel. That's
nice.
Right. It's about 49, 50 degrees here right now. And what we're going to talk about today is the great group known as the Four Seasons, but most importantly, Tommy DeVito, the founding member who at the age of 92 a few weeks ago passed away from COVID-19. And Tommy, as we said, founding member, he originally had a little trio, Joe, called Variety Trio. They played throughout New Jersey. And a young, underaged, very underaged Frankie Valli used to sneak into the bar to listen to them sing. And then one day, Tommy brought him up on stage and boom, here we go. The Four Seasons are born.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's an interesting story about Tommy because I want to play a little bit of ragdoll here, but Tommy was the youngest of 8 kids. So talk about hand-me-downs. I mean,
he had a hand-me-down.
9 kids. I mean, yeah, so he was the 9th in line, and whether it was girls or boys, believe me, he got hand-me-downs from toys to clothes to everything else. The family was pretty poor. He, at the age of 8, taught himself how to play guitar by listening to country music on the radio. By the time he was 12, he was playing in little clubs and taverns for quarters and pennies and making money. And he ended up quitting school in high school, and he started in the 8th grade. He started making $20 to $25 a gig playing it. We're talking about probably in the early 40s, you know. So he formed a trio, as you mentioned, with his brother, and this is where it gets really good. They had a trio called the Vibratones too. He found a guy you mentioned, Francis Castelluccio, and it's a good Italian. I'm sure you know that translates into Frankie Valli, right? So they renamed themselves the Four Lovers. I'm going to turn this off for a second. They renamed themselves the Four Lovers. They released 7 singles, but one of them called You're the Apple of My Eye got the attention in 1956 on Billboard charts. It started charting, and then they were invited to play the Ed Sullivan Show, 1956. So they had a song called You're the Apple of My Eye that was written by, Otis Blackwell wrote this song, Apple of My Eye. And so I want to play a little bit of it because I want you to hear what it ended up sounding like later on. Got a little Four Seasons going there, but this is the Apple of My Eye. Here we go. Listen to this. You can hear yeah, written by Bob Gaudio, actually, and Bob Crew. And we'll play a little montage of some of the best of the Four Seasons. You hear that beat running through, it's just incredible. And Frankie Valli, pretty much the high voice on this one. Tommy was the baritone and the bass player. God, these songs, Tony, bring back such great memories, you know? They had so many hits, it's insane. Dawn, go away, you're no good for me.
I love hearing stories about how groups got started. And, when you think of the Beatles and the Beach Boys, obviously a family, but the Four Seasons, now you know why, first of all, the impact they made musically, but consider how they made the impact just beyond their music in the Broadway hit Jersey Boys, bringing in a whole new demographic of fans and listeners. And then the movie. And when you think about it, the only other group to have done anything like that was ABBA with Mamma Mia, Broadway, and now 2 films in major motion pictures. So, and really what the difference that Frankie Valli made, right? They were a good group by themselves, but Frankie Valli, what a difference, right?
Well, he went on to have those hits, Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, even though it was 1967 and the Four Seasons were still together. They kind of, he became the voice of the whole group. And he had Who Loves You. And who picked up on the hook of Who Loves You, Pretty Baby? Remember the Private Eye with the lollipop
Yeah,
on TV? It
yeah.
was Who Loves
Columbo.
You, Baby? Kojak.
Kojak, right? Oh yeah, Columbo's didn't have the lollipop. That's right.
Yeah, he had the cigar. No, Kojak picked up on the Who Loves You, and then he had December 1963. Oh, What a Night, Frankie Valli with the Four Seasons. But by then it was really pretty much Frankie Valli, and he was going out on his own. And when I was at Magic 102.7, he came by because we were doing those concerts at the Sunrise Musical Theater all the time, and he was just the nicest guy. He came in the studio, he recorded a bunch of goofy things that we wrote for him to say, and and then you forget he was not super tall,
No.
but he was intimidating. I'll tell you that. I did not, I was very gracious to be in his company.
Yeah.
And what an entertainer he is. It's still around, still performing. I know that, it's hard to keep that falsetto after all these years. I mean, he's got to be Tommy DeVito close to that age. Tommy was 92. He's Frankie Valli, without looking it up, he's got to be in his 80s for sure.
He was 4 or 5 years younger than Tommy DeVito was at the time when he would sneak into the bars in New Jersey. So my guess is probably around 87, 88 years old. But I saw him recently in concert at that age, and he's remarkable. I mean, absolutely remarkable. And you talk about his graciousness. I performed, not perform. I hosted a show with him for the Boys Town of Italy. And the honorary chairperson for the Boys Town of Italy was always Perry Como, the late, great Perry Como.
Yeah.
Now, Perry Como wasn't big in stature either, but both Perry Como and Frankie Valli were on stage, and the respect that Frankie Valli showed Perry Como was absolutely remarkable. It was, you would expect it anyway, but it was beyond the remarkable part. He was just honored to be in Perry Como's company, and to hear them do a melody together was incredible because, Perry Como was known as the barber, and, he had that very just soft, very relaxed. You almost thought he was asleep when he sang, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Frankie, on the other hand, was to the other end of that spectrum, right? But to hear them together was amazing. And, like when you talk sports, right? When you talk about a guy like maybe Mickey Mantle, for example, the late Mickey Mantle, there wasn't a young man who was a baseball fan who didn't want to be Mickey Mantle, B, and you would practice his batting stance in the mirror. With Frankie Valli, how many of us tried to sing Sherry, baby? Right?
You got to have some tight pants to do that one, Tony.
Well, not only tight, but you got to have, as Tommy DeVito said, when he recognized Frankie Valli, and Frankie Valli sang for the first time, he said to his brother and the other members of his original group, "This young man's got pipes," because it takes pipes to be able to do that, right?
Well, it takes somebody with recognizing talent to admit somebody into your group, and it was the same with the Beatles. John Lennon recognized that Paul had talent and invited him to join his group, and I think it was the same with Tony DeVito. He realized, man, this group could really be something if we brought in Francis.
Yeah, Tommy DeVito. Who would have ever thought that this young man coming from a poor family of 8, a very strict Italian family, teaching himself how to play a guitar, running around underage, 12 years old, playing in bars, would find and put together a group of young men who would become the quintessential group of its time. And still to this day, songs are relevant and they're still part of our everyday culture.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the book of top 40 hits, and I mean, it would take me a half hour to read all the hits that they had. We heard just a few of them. I have a few more I can play on the way out, but yeah, just spectacular music. They were inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1990, and that was when the original Four Seasons were all still together, and they performed, of course. But in 2005, that's when Jersey Boys came around, and then the film, Clint Eastwood directed the Jersey Boys film in 2014. Feature film. So they so much longevity with that group.
I know this is all personal preference and how you feel about a different group, but you've worked oldies for so long, and you've been around the music industry your entire life. in your estimation, where would you place the Four Seasons in ranking those great groups of those times? I mean, we're talking Four Seasons, Beach Boys, Beatles,
Yeah.
obviously, Rolling Stones, the Animals, the Kinks, you know, on and on and on, Three Dog Night, all of those, Chicago, all of those groups. And during that kind of 20-year period, where would you put the Four Seasons in terms of that group?
I would put them easily in the top 5. I mean,
Yeah.
listening to this music again, I mean, it's interesting because they were pre-British invasion, pre-Beatles, but you know what? They held on. Let's hang on. They had hits in 1965, 1967 during Sgt. Pepper. I mean, they hung in there. They had great, great hit records against the powerhouses, as you mentioned, the Rolling Stones and Cream and the Beatles and the Supremes and all these other bands they were competing with. But they were really the roots. They came out of vocal group harmony, the doo-wop era, and they had staying power. And as we saw in Jersey Boys on Broadway and in South Florida at the Broward Center, packed crowds. I mean, the mass appeal, songs in movies. It's incredible.
Well, yeah, and I think for many, many people, Frankie Valli was so the identifying voice and character of the Four Seasons that many people didn't even realize that the Four Seasons had broken up, because Frankie Valli was still performing. You know, for example, when he did what was it, Saturday Night Fever?
Oh, he did Grease. He did the song Grease.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you swore it was the Four Seasons, right? You didn't know it was just Frankie Valli.
Well, it was interesting because that was written and produced by the Bee Gees, Morris Gibb, and I think it was recorded in South Florida, Criteria. So you had a Bee Gees production with, you know, who's better than than the Bee Gees doing that? Barry Gibb, I should say, the producer. And you got Frankie Valli, and they had to have loved that combination, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And speaking of Criteria, just for a little bit of a side note, all of the Baby Boomer Report podcasts that you see now on our Baby Boomer Report webpage, which is thebabyboomerreport.com, where all of our podcasts there were recorded in the same studio that Frankie Valli recorded in, Aretha Franklin recorded in, all of those great groups that recorded in Criteria. So we recorded all of our podcasts in there.
Wow. You know, you were talking about a pop star having reverence for an older pop star, you know, like, and I remember that the same with Billy Joel when he wrote a song called Baby Grand, and it was written for Ray Charles, you know, and then Billy Joel having Tony Bennett sing New York State of Mind. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because that's the guy that sang I Left My Heart in San Francisco, and Billy saying, no, come over here and sing New York State of Mind. That's the New York version of that song. So I love it when actors and singers do that. I remember a couple of years ago when Lady Gaga did something from The Sound of Music, and Julie Andrews came out on stage at the end. It might have been for the Tonys, and Lady Gaga, I thought she was going to cry. She went
gaga. She went gaga. Well, you know what else is how cool they were at the time, and they still are. And just kind of in closing, and one of our podcasts is with the great legendary Cousin Brucey, and Cousin Brucey tells the story about how Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons literally surprised him with Cousin Brucey's own jingle that Cousin Brucey still plays today on the radio.
Yeah, well, he actually moved from Sirius XM back to the ABC, WABC AM. So he's back to where he started it all, you know, welcoming the Beatles and the Plaza Hotel and in New York in 64 and 65. And it's good that the legends like yourself, my friend, are still up doing their craft, you know.
And as yourself. Listen, we have a lot of hits. We'd like you to take us out, but we'd love to hear what you think on the Baby Boomer Report Facebook page and our Baby Boomer Report webpage as well. Let us know your favorite Four Seasons songs. Let us know how you feel about the Four Seasons. Let us know you have a great memory about the Four Seasons, because every song invokes some memory of some kind. And we would love to hear from you, and we will respond back, because Joe and I and many of our others on the Baby Boomer Report staff are great lovers of the Four Seasons, and we love to hear from you. Right, Joe?
The Four Lovers, I think they were called originally, right? So let me see if I can play a little more music from these guys.
Oh, it's on and on.
It's insane, right? And this is not even all of their hits. A little bit more comes. I've Got You Under My Skin. I think Frank Sinatra may have done this one. Ah,
Well,
yeah,
Joe,
you know, so great, Tony.
can't thank you enough once again for stepping in and doing a great boombox for us. And I know we have more planned. You have a special surprise coming up, I think next month on just concert tickets that you've acquired over the years. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And if any of you have any ideas, by the way, that you would like to weigh in on, and we can do here on the Baby Boomer Report, let us know. Let us know your favorite group. Maybe it is Cream, maybe it's the Kinks, maybe it's the Animals, whatever the case might be. The Beach Boys. We can weigh in on all those for you. So, for Joe Johnson, I'm Tony Segreto. Joe, thanks again as always, buddy. You're my best go-to DJ guy. You are the man. I'm Tony Segreto. Thank you for joining us on the Baby Boomer Report Facebook page. We hope to hear from you, and stay tuned.